name is Elizabeth Dubois, and I'm an associate professor at the University of Ottawa in the Department of Communication. My research focuses on how digital media are integrated into the information and news sharing practices of individuals, how political actors use digital tools, and how these tools are or are not regulated. I'll assume that most of you have heard of the idea of switching costs and network effects. And what I'd like to talk about today are some of the ways that these effects are exacerbated and intensified by some very meaningful social costs that are created when platforms are deeply integrated into people's social, political, and economic lives. Let's start with the idea of coping with information overload. Information overload happens when we have too much information for us to actually consume. And this is a reality in the digital ecosystem. We rely on tools like search engines to help us sift through all of the possible information to find what is useful to us. But the thing is, these platforms tend to become ones that we use out of habit. Once we find ones we trust, we go back to them repeatedly. You might think of the example of YouTube. Videos can be created and hosted anywhere on the internet, but YouTube is known to be the largest repository of videos, and so it's the main search engine used for videos worldwide. It means that creators of videos think about the YouTube environment specifically when they're creating their content and thinking about how to share it. We see similar dominance when we look to things like how small and medium-sized businesses make use of digital platforms to sell their goods and services. Let's take Instagram as an example. To get certain features like a swipe up to purchase link, you need to be formally listed as a business account, which means you have to give the company additional information. You also have to have a shop in Facebook, which requires you to have a Facebook account and to agree to share information across Instagram and Facebook about your various accounts and your shops. This means that you have to make choices that you might not have made otherwise in order to exist in that environment and access what is often the largest audience. They have resources and design things in ways to motivate you to create certain kinds of content, to share it at certain times of day, and to essentially guide the strategic choices you make as a business owner. Lastly, I want to talk about the idea of personalization algorithms and the different algorithms that are used by social media and search to prioritize content on your feed. These algorithms target, capitalize on, and exacerbate behavioral biases. So let's take a few examples. We know of the idea of confirmation bias, where we tend to pay more attention to information that confirms our existing beliefs. We also know that people are much more likely to click on big, bright buttons than they are to read long, boring, gray text. We know that people tend to pick the items that show up first in a list rather than scrolling all the way through or clicking onto subsequent pages. And we know that clickbait works. We know that things that have been designed specifically to get clicks do tend to show up more often in search results and in timelines on different social media feeds. What this means is we create situations that can sometimes be described as filter bubbles. Now, the filter bubble effect happens when you are algorithmically fed information that is similar to all of the other information you have already encountered. You end up in a bubble and you see only the cat videos if it's the cat videos you've liked before, or only the left-leaning politics if it's only the left-leaning politics you've liked before. Now, it's important to know that there's limited agreement in the academic literature right now about the extent to which filter bubbles impact things like political polarization, which is the main fear associated with it. But it is clear that personalization does happen, which can have impacts beyond polarization because it can make people want to stay on the platform. The more you see things that are comfortable for you, the more you want those things. In contrast, there's this idea of an echo chamber, and it takes the same sort of metaphor where the more information you send out, the more you get that information back to you. So you're still talking about an environment where you end up seeing a lot of the same things because of the way these platforms are designed. But the echo chamber effect takes into consideration the choices individuals make in their digital ecosystem. And the idea here is, if you're given a bunch of different choices of where to get information and who is producing that information, Do you end up choosing things that are similar to what you already like, building off that confirmation bias idea? Or might you select a wider variety of things? In my research, we looked at this in the context of political information. And what we found is that people who have access to multiple different social media are significantly more likely to avoid echo chambers than people who don't. So when you have a situation where you've got a variety of different algorithms each feeding you information, you're more equipped to identify new kinds of information. You're more likely to see information that you disagree with. You're more likely to check on facts that have been presented to you. And so all of these are considered really positive things for democracy specifically, but more broadly for one's ability to connect with social, political, and economic systems. The thing is, the fewer options you have, the less equipped you are to deal with the potential of getting stuck in an echo chamber. And so the fewer options there are out in the system, the worse off individuals in society are in terms of their ability to gather the information they need to connect with their social, political, and economic systems. Thanks so much for your time and have a great day.